So can India trust China? That seems to be the eternal question. We have Mr. K.C. Singh, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, joining us as well tonight. Mr. Singh, how would you look at this visit overall first? Your first impressions when you saw today's developments, the border pact, however, no visa agreement. On balance, how do you say it went?
You see, firstly, the meetings between the two prime ministers have occurred within a very short period of time. They met just about 4 months back, and now again they are meeting. The joint statement is rather short. It's a little scanty, rather short, more of a follow-up on their last meeting. You can see that joint statements normally talk about convergences. Areas of divergence are many, areas of suspicion are many. Those hopefully would have been addressed, but they are not going to be mentioned in the joint statement. And the border defense cooperation agreement refers to the 4 earlier agreements, and then it tries addressing the problem. They tried addressing it again 4 months ago when they had set up a joint secretary level committee, which obviously didn't work at that stage. So you are now trying to develop a new mechanism of army headquarters talking to each other. But the taste of the pie shall be in the eating. Just like we found after New York, even though the two prime ministers said the DGMOs will meet, there's still firing going on across ceasefire line.
Absolutely.
And there are thinkers and strategic thinkers who feel that the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China, has actually emerged stronger during the recent transition of power to President Xi and Prime Minister Li, and that they are a major stakeholder in this transfer of power. So it remains to be seen how exactly this is implemented.
So are you,
but there's one interesting phase, one interesting phrase in the agreement which says that neither side shall use force to seek unilateral superiority. Now this is rather vague. Does it mean that it imposes a status quo, which means India, which has less developed facilities, will not be, that was always a concern, will not be allowed to develop it? Or it's only talking of patrolling being used to come into aggressive postures? So the Chinese may interpret it differently, which means any facility that you create, they may take exception to it and say this is unilateral creation of superiorty.
So you're cautious. You're cautiously optimistic then overall, it seems, about this visit, and you don't really believe, until things happen on the ground, you don't really believe, what about all the promises at least that have been made as far as these agreements are concerned. We have senior BJP leader Subramanian Swamy joining us as well. Mr. Swamy, how would you think that this relationship has been handled? It's a very delicate one you know very well. Is it important that at least the two leaderships have met in less than 6 months in the same year, that they've been able to at least have some positives on the surface?
I think this, knowing the Chinese a bit, that as I do, I think this is an ill-advised trip, if you ask me.
Why? Because
the Chinese are very protocol conscious. They know in 6 months there's going to be an election. Second, the agreement that is being tom-tommed by the government, which is the border agreement, is much worse than the one we signed in 1993 with Narasimha Rao and with Deve Gowda in 1996. Now you see the Kashmir situation. You have an insurgency within the part which is in your control. You have Pakistan rampaging on the line of control. And the Chinese, for the first time after maybe 3 decades, is become very active in the last 1 year in the part which they hold, which is Aksai Chin. So I think there should have been much more specific commitment. Secondly, all said and done, this stapling of visa is a highly obnoxious thing. If you come from Tamil Nadu, there's no stapling of visa. There are countries which will give any Indian passport a stapled visa, like the Singapore and so on. But that can be understood. But here they make it a selective one, and the Prime Minister should have got prior understanding that something would come out on that, but he has not done it. I think the visit has been a failure.
So you think it's a failure? Do you think he shouldn't have gone so soon?
He shouldn't have gone at all, because with 6 months to go, you shouldn't be traveling out so much.
Okay.